targeting against foreign adversaries. And if you're an American citizen, you're clearly not a foreign adversary. But it still does say that. So I don't know. It's kind of a loophole, not really. A little bit murky there. But outside of that, the rest of this thing looks fine now. A lot better than what it was. My God, this thing was a disaster before.
Yeah, I wanted to mention.
Sorry. Al had his hand up. I didn't know you were.
Yeah, but I just was interested in what he about to say about this bill. I never heard about it. They issue it today. There's leaks about it.
No,
it's been around for a while.
It's been around. Well, it had an iteration in 2023, early 2023, and we read the bill and killed it because it was a disaster that was designed to it literally just gave Facebook, Amazon, and Google full control over our internet, which was absurd. But anyway, so we killed that version of the bill, and it looks like the Republicans got a hold of it and determined it was something worth doing. So they went after it, and then it looks like they actually rewrote it, specifically targeted the language towards foreign adversaries, and actually very specifically ByteDance, claiming they're a foreign adversary company. And looks like it's been rewritten to be pretty narrow in its scope compared to what it was before. So it's not nearly as disastrous as it was before, but it does look like it has passed both House, Senate, and it's going to be signed by Biden.
Okay.
So
I just want to give a brief about what happening in the Middle East. It's impacting what is happening here in the United States. I think Russia now is easing their part, trying to do their maneuvers when Trump's taking over. Iran is in very deeply bad situation because I noticed there is increase of attacks from their east flank from Pakistan. Those guys is called the Baluchis, the Justice Army. But what they are doing is taking the people from there, the Shia, the Pakistanis and Afghanis who flee from the war from Taliban and from all the other people from the jihadist Sunnis, recruit them and push them all over to Iraq and Syria. Now, when Israel started to went to the place between the Julan and trying to reinforce their troops there, and the United Nations that violates the disarmed area, the leaks indicated that Israel they're afraid from a ground offense, just like happened before in October the 7th, based upon that they're pushing a lot of brigades from the Axis. Iran trying now to move the Axis from the Iraqi Axis and the Syrian Axis all the way to the east side to counter the Baluchistans and the other jihadists, just like they did with ISIS before, and replace them with the Pakistanis and Afghanistanis, which is a cool situation for them. I mean, they're trying to do maneuver, but the problem is the Axis are trying to do their own business. They're trying to get rid of Iran. They're leaning towards the Russians. Russia today, one of their delegates, named Alexander Leverentiev, says that we will not allow to any shipments of arms comes from Iraq through Syria to Lebanon, and that's a huge for Israel. And I think the back channels are working with us about this to prevent Iran and to eliminate their influence in Syria. Israel is resuming their air attacks in Beirut. I think they're trying to prevent the Hezbollah from going to the highlands, like the mountains, and trying to establish their rockets again. Their activities is went all the way down. The jihadi Islamists is going bigger in Gaza versus the Hamas, despite the fact that the Israeli Navy killed one of their Hamas elements. They're trying to recruit people in Lebanon. Otherwise, the clearing operations are continuing. 167 and 91. 167 in north of Gaza, with the 36 and 91 is continuing in Lebanon. Did you guys see the video for the hostage, the Israeli hostage? They said they've been streamed by the jihadi Islamics.
No.
Yeah, I did not see it because I don't want to see it. To be honest, I do have some reflex when I see these kind of things. But anyway, it indicates that Iran has a big gap with the Russian too. The jihadi Islamists is so close to Iran, then Hamas is close to Iran, because the doctrine of the jihadi Islamist the divisions, they changed their religion from Sunni to Shia. I don't know, it's not the same thing. Within the same thing of Islam, they changed their doctrine from Sunnis to Shia, so they've become more loyal to Iran. And for that reason, when they streamed this guy, he's a dual citizen, Russian and Israeli, that sends a message to the Russians, and also kind of confirm what you have said before, Steel, that you believe that the hostage is not only with Hamas. You know what I'm saying? It's they're scattered. Even Jack Sullivan, he indicated that before. They said it's not with only Hamas. It's with other brigades. They're making that the mission for claiming for the hostage is so difficult. So it's continuing that the Iran lost most of their rockets, and today the foreign policy that issued a statement. So I made a report, good report. I encourage each and everyone to read it. They said that Iran had a defense mechanism from 3 stages. The last stage was the nuclear deterrence. Probably they will lean towards to it, and they're pushing the Khamenei to change the doctrine so they can start to establish warheads. But I think they are far away from that, because the Russians want to give them this technology, the last touch, to finish and utilize that. So that they're trying to calm down, not because they want to negotiate with Trump, but because they don't have other option. If they go to the war, they were depending on the Houthis, and they depending on the Axis. Axis, they're trying to negotiate with Washington by themselves. They're trying to drop the Iranians behind, put them under the bus. The Houthis is suffering too. We're launching a massive airstrike for around a week, and we're taking down a lot of their storage and their ballistic missiles. So yeah, it's very complicated. Iran is kind of trying to keep themselves low profile. That's mirroring inside the United States, and I think that's an answer why the pro-Hamas is kind of wind down a little bit.
Thank you for that great update. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Victoria, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got another hand here. What's up, Victoria?
Hey, Stell. How's it going? It's been a minute.
Good. How are you?
Good. I just had two questions for Walter about that bill. Now, one, can you send that to me? I don't know if you can send that to me. Do you have a link? Okay, cool. And then, is that a proposed bill?
No, it's already signed. It's already been.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it went through. They stuffed it into the Ukraine-Israel package a few months ago.
Interesting.
Hilarious.
Can you
Hilarious.
send it to me too?
What else wasn't stuffed into that? Jeez, it's like everything was in that.
Is there a check to Jackson Hinkle in there too? I'm just curious. What else was in there?
Oh, I don't know. It's one of these ridiculous omnibus type things. So I'll post it down here.
I do have a question. Do you guys remember the bill for peace through strength for 21st century? It should be activated in November the 15th. news about that? About this bill? Which is include a lot of package of sanctions against Iran, China, and Russia.
No, I don't know. The problem is that right now is that we just got through election season, so I've spent the past, year or so doing nothing but political operative stuff. So I tend to lose track of bills during that time, and they know that. So that's when they stuff all the terrible stuff in. So then I have to spend the next 4 years undoing that. That's life. But anyway, I just put that down on the bottom. That bill. Just share it up on the top too. If you want to read it. I misspelled ByteDance, but whatever. I don't care. That's the bill. If you want to read it, it's not bad compared to what it was. It was much like 10,000x worse. The first iteration of this. This has been significantly narrowed. Pretty targeted specifically to foreign adversaries. I don't like how the language in it specifically says that the president's determination can be used, but I think that you'd have a pretty strong argument in court if you were to be targeted by something like this, that you could say that you're not a foreign adversary if you're an American citizen. So I think it's probably okay.
You'd have to have Congress.
Yeah.
You'd have to have Congress do that. Which, there was something. The reason I thought about this is someone, I'm not positive, but I'm almost sure that I saw something about Trump saying that he's going to go back after it as soon as he gets into office. So it's possible, but I don't know why he would after reading it. It doesn't seem that bad now, unless I'm missing something. But I don't know. I just read it twice, so it seems fine to me.
Walter, do you think that
Real quick, I wanted to ask Walter just because I think he might have an answer to this. Whatever happened with these signing statements? I know Obama was he was doing that a lot. What does that mean when there's a signing statement, and can that be added later?
A signing statement? What do you mean by that? Like signing it later or what?
Well, when the president signs a bill, Obama was putting in, I don't know if it's considered like an executive order at that point, but he would, I don't know, kind of accept the bill, but also kind of give instructions on how to implement it for the agencies or whatever. I'm confused about it. I was just reading about that today, how, because like now they have to interpret the bill. You know what I mean? Like the bill has been written, it's in law, it's put out, but now as it goes down for enforcement, it's actually, there's going to be people deciding on how it gets enforced.
I think so. He might be. So I think that's the intention of that is so there might be a way to like set the regulation, but I'm not really sure how that would really work. That's kind of a novel theory. It doesn't really usually happen. I think a lot of this also has to do with the fact that none of this really matters anymore because the executive branch isn't the one that's allowed to interpret the law. That's the judiciary's job. Now, the signing statement might be done intentionally so that this might be a response to Chevron deference being overturned, but it still is kind of irrelevant because the judiciary is the one that interprets the law, and if the law is not good enough, then the judiciary throws the law out, which is the whole way our system is supposed to work. There was only problem we had for 50 years was that we decided Chevron deference meant the judges didn't have to do their job. So Chevron deference being overturned, which was this year, was the most significant court case that any of you have ever heard of in your lifetime, but half of you probably have never heard of Chevron deference. It allowed the bureaucratic agencies full regulatory control to set up their own courts, essentially, on how they would adjudicate regulations that they set up. So that was a very, very terrible law that had been used in almost every single facet of American life for 50 years, but that was just overturned this year. So anything that these ridiculous bills, even if you have a signing statement on it and the president wants you to implement it this way or whatever it is, none of that matters anymore, because if it's not a good bill now and a good team takes it to court, they can have the judiciary overturn said laws.
Yeah, so the one,
especially with Chevron deference out.
Yeah, the one that I was looking at was with Obama. He had signed, it was about indefinite detention, and one of his signing statements was basically, my administration is not going to recognize indefinite detention or something like that. So I was just wondering, I wasn't actually familiar. Someone sent that to me, and I was just
I wouldn't
wondering.
pay much attention to it. Winston probably can speak to some of this stuff, though.
So a signing statement has absolutely no legal significance. It just means, okay, so when they record it in the official historical record, it's basically just a little add-on note, and frankly, the president can put anything they want on it. It can just be a, yay, this is a really great bill, typical type statements of, whatever PR stuff. Or they can try to, write, oh, well, I'm signing this, but in my administration, I don't quite agree with this part, and so we'll see how it goes with the Supreme Court or something. Like, it really has no significance. It's just something to, hey, I'm going to write this down in the record so that, theoretically, when somebody looks back on, the history, they'll see, oh, this was my actual intent, or why I decided to sign this, or whatever else.
Yeah, I think the idea that last I was talking about was the novel idea that Obama was using these things to direct the government agencies to do things within signing statements, which that was a theory 10 years ago that he was doing stuff like that. But I mean, I never really saw it actually come to do anything. I mean, the agencies did whatever Obama wanted because they all agreed with him. They didn't have to have a signing statement.
I do have a question.
Yeah, it's not an executive order, and I think that he was trying to treat it like he was putting the executive order in the signing statement, that's not really how it works.
Exactly.
Walter, I do have a question. If now Trump becomes the president, does that mean that Biden is continuing to be the leader of the Democratic Party?
I think Biden is the leader of the nearest beach in Delaware. That's the only thing that Biden will be leading from here on forward.
Now, I mean, from legal perspective.
Oh, legal. There's not the legal leader of the Democratic Party is the head of the DNC. That's not like the political and social leader of the Democrat Party is different than the actual leader of the party. The chairman of the DNC would be the actual legal leader of the Democratic Party. But Biden himself, he's not going to do anything after he leaves. He voted for Trump, and he's happy that he's leaving. He's going to go sit on this beach in Delaware, and that's the end of his day. He managed to, they threw him out, stuck Kamala Harris in there, and laughed at him as they tried to run her because it was hysterical for us all to watch. It was a really, really good show. I enjoyed Trump season 8. I'm looking forward to the next one.
So I had an idea earlier when we were talking about this Bilzerian character, and I think that what we should do is start a change.org petition to make it like a Bilzerian disorder for the DSM, so that his name will always be remembered, and then we can specify it as like a narcissistic disorder,
Cluster
that
B.
think
Yeah,
mentality.
cluster B thing that you
So the thing earlier with Bilzerian, he's not a conspiracy theorist, okay? Conspiracy theorists actually believe, in the conspiracy. What he is, and Brandon brought it up earlier, is an engagement farmer. So whatever opinion, and this is my criticism of Vivek as well, whatever opinion gets the most engagement on Twitter is the one that they're going to adopt. And that doesn't necessarily mean the most popular one. That means the one that gets the most reaction out of people. And you gotta admit, Holocaust denying gets a hell of a reaction out of people.
So him
Well,
hiding out
there's also a whole
hiding out in
there's a whole
Qatar
other-
and all that. What's going on with his personal life and the FBI?
I am known for stunt double.
There's actually another side to this, and
one,
Winston's
two,
right about
and
the
no way.
engagement party,
I'm
farming
gonna
part,
take
but
Leticia through
so
stunt
there is
basics,
another
easy
intelligence
stuff.
side of this. That there's sometimes
And we're gonna
people
turn that
get
into
stuck in
what I
strange
do
positions
to
where
make
they
it look
happen
like
to be, former spec ops, former anything of these kind of positions, and it just so happens that a lot of
to
the
make it
people
look
that
cool, to make you look
decided
fluid.
informants
Not so fluid though, that it's
intentionally to stick
unrelatable.
in places like that.
What kind of babying you
We've been doing that for
But once you get into
And
the choreography,
his
you
money
gotta
laundering
really make
thing
it
with
look
the dad
good.
and everything that happened.
That's a lot of
And his
passion.
dad being wanted by the FBI right now and being arrested before for like 20 years. And him hiding out in Qatar is not real? Or
No,
Oh.
it doesn't mean it's real or not. I'm not specifically talking about him.
Right.
I'm talking about people like
right, that
people that are extremely polarizing, extremely part of some extremist group for whatever reason. It is common that is actually an intel officer that we've stuck there. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if this guy specifically is. I honestly don't pay any attention to him whatsoever about anything he does. Is he an intel officer? I have no idea. But I do know that we have intel officers that happen to lead, every extremist group that's ever existed. So, it's just a commonly done thing. Whether or not this guy is specifically, I have no idea.
And I think he's become a campus too. And campism means that, you divide the world into first world, second world, and sometimes third world, okay? And there's an alignment, and everybody and everything belongs in one of these camps, right? And so he has gone and decided he's anti-American, okay? And so whatever he feels is in the other camp, that's the anti-American camp, he's going to side with that. It doesn't really matter whether he actually agrees with it, has any sort of actual affiliation, alignment, whatever. He's just going to jump in and defend them because they're in the same camp that he's in, which is in that second camp, the anti-Western camp.
Yeah, I was trying to do some of that. I was organizing and selecting different groups earlier. That's how I actually found Stealth. I followed one of her members back into her conversations, and that's how I found her. But it was, I was in a group of people where they were blaming the Jews for everything. Like when I say everything, I mean everything. I made a joke, and I was like, I stubbed my toe in the morning, and I was like, it had to be them, and there's people liking that comment. And one person that I followed was Stealth. She wasn't in there, but one of the people that follow her was in this group, and I was sitting there and I was making comments, just seeing what kind of reaction I could get out of people. But when I started, they realized I was making a joke out of it. They kicked me out of it, but then, she reached out and I eventually found Stealth. But I was so surprised. It was around the October 7th anniversary, and I couldn't believe how many spaces were out there where people were just, I mean, the stuff that you would hear was insane. And,
A lot of that stuff, specifically around that time period, a lot of that stuff was paid. That was all directly paid influence campaigns to make that happen. Like that's not a naturally organic thing that happens.
yeah,
But
that's
on the
what I was
same line,
thinking.
in kind of a more humorous way, I actually like this idea of campism because I really like the current take by the Bill Kristols of the world that are claiming that it's all those pesky voters' fault that we won this election. And I want them to keep that attitude. So keep them in it's the voters' fault attitude as long as possible. So let's make sure that they maintain that. I'm a huge fan. I really think it's the best way to win more voters. Tell them that they're terrible and that they're idiots and
If
that
you
they should
skip
have voted
this,
for
you
me.
will regret it.
And I guarantee you they'll bring
skip.
far more voters to their side. I want to promote this idea, more of this. Just keep it up, people.
Yeah, the
Quickly,
one
second.
they can tell
Hold on,
us we are the
Mars, one sec. Mars, 1 second. Mars, 1 sec. Just I found someone sent me a little thing about the going back to our previous conversation about the TikTok. So Lisa said, to the best of my knowledge, and she sent me some text from it also. She said, to the best of my knowledge, the TikTok ban passed as part of the foreign aid package. And she sent me a relevant section of the bill from Congress.gov. Division H, Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Application Act. This division prohibits distributing, maintaining, updating, or providing internet hosting services for a foreign adversary controlled application, and it even puts there in parentheses, for example, TikTok. However, the prohibition does not apply to a covered application that executes a qualified divestiture as determined by the president. Under the division, a foreign adversary controlled application is an application directly or indirectly operated by one, ByteDance Limited, TikTok, their subsidiaries, successors, related entities they control, or entities controlled by a foreign adversary country, or two, a social media company that is controlled by a foreign adversary country and determined by the president to present a significant threat to national security. And then it puts in parentheses here, a social media company excludes any website or application primarily used to post product reviews, business reviews, or travel information and reviews. For the purposes of this division, there's not too much left. For the purposes of this division, a foreign adversary country includes North Korea, China, Russia, and Iran. Those are the only countries specified. A qualified divestiture is a transaction that the president has determined through an interagency process would result in the relevant foreign adversary controlled application no longer being controlled by a foreign adversary and precludes the establishment or maintenance of any operational relationship between the U.S. operations of the relevant application and the entities controlled by the foreign adversary. So there might be more, but on the surface, I strongly support every word of that.
Yeah, I was reading that it has to have the code as well available to that entity.
It's got to be open source. Like I said, when I was reading this version of it, this is significantly narrowed to the point that I don't really see much issue with it. There's a bit of language in how the president has the ability to determine the classification of a foreign adversary, but outside of that, like I said, I don't see much problem with this. The first version of this bill was an abject disaster. This is not the same bill, to be honest with you. Like, calling this the TikTok bill is not really what the original TikTok bill was. This is much, much, much different. And obviously, the Republicans looked at the bill that the Democrats had nearly passed, by the way. They almost got this thing through. This is a completely different bill.
Yeah, I don't know what red-blooded or even semi-patriotic American would look at and say, you know what? No, you know what I really want? I want North Korea, China, Iran, I think there was one other country, or Russia, to have a fully owned and controlled application that clearly F's with the American people, causes division, brainwashes them into gender ideology, which TikTok does a lot of, and open borders, and defund the police, pro-Hamas, you name the bad cause, it's on TikTok. Yeah.
Well, not only that, if you have TikTok on your phone, people, TikTok is one of the most malicious softwares that has ever been designed. Like, if you have TikTok on your phone and you use TikTok regularly, I highly recommend that you delete it immediately. That's my only recommendation. It is one of the only applications. So if you're someone like me who's ridiculous about cyber, I have zero data output. I have no data out anywhere. Nothing comes out of my phone that's data to any cloud anywhere. And that's by never touching Google, because Google is even worse than anything else. But there's a lot of ways to go about it. But if you look at the software that TikTok is, it is the worst spyware that has ever existed on your phone. Facebook is a close second, but at least Facebook, you can turn all that shit off now. They forced them to be able to do it. And if you go through, you have to go to the actual website and go through all the settings, and it takes an hour because they hide everything and they don't tell you everything is, but you can turn it off on Facebook, and you can turn off everything else from Facebook. And if you have an iPhone, you can actually directly tell the app not to do that through your phone. But TikTok is a whole nother level of terrible. This thing is essentially just a pocket spy device that reads everything on your phone and transmits it directly to fucking Xi Jinping.
Yeah, what do you think about, Walter? I'm not sure what you think about. I think it's the DuckDuckGo browser. So I use that on my phone, and it also has a blocking mechanism where it'll actually tell you what apps are trying to transmit what information exactly. And when you turn that on, you'll get hundreds, if not every time you touch an application. Sometimes even when you're not using them, they're trying to send out tracking data. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's an app. I have Android, and it's an app